Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show, Mr. Fred Lamkey, is the superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools. Mr. Lamkey, how you doing this morning?
We're doing wonderful, Steph. It's great to be on.
Yeah, thanks for making time for us as always. We appreciate that very much. I know things are kind of getting a little busy with the end of the semester right around the corner. I can't believe that. And I know you're headed up to the annual school board conference and those sorts of things. But some news out of Logan County last night impacting Mount Pulaski schools. What's going on, Mr. Lamkey?
Well, Mount Pulaski's had two wind farm projects come through in our school district, and we've been approached by two separate companies that are looking to do wind farms again. And they went before the county board last night, and both the wind farms got approval to go ahead and put up probably in total in our district, probably about another 50 wind turbines.
So what does that mean for Mount Pulaski, Mr. Lamkey?
Well, that's added tax revenue that's going to come into our school district. These projects probably won't begin until next year, and they probably won't affect our school district until the 2025 school year. But what it does for us, it just gives a little more financial security and stability, knowing that for a projected 20-year period of time that we're going to have a steady local revenue that we don't have to wonder if it's going to be there or not. It's going to be part of our tax base, and it's going to allow us to do some really good things in the school district.
Now, I know you've benefited from a couple of these projects already. Highlight that for us.
Yeah, if you go back 10 years ago, our school district was in pretty much financial dire straits. We were just barely keeping our heads in the black. We were downsizing our staff, and we were just getting by the best that we could. Move forward 5 or 6 years, the wind farm project started coming in, and it opened a lot of doors for us. While our taxpayers were very gracious and passed a $10 million referendum to build a new high school, it allowed us to do other things in that project to make that high school what the students needed, not just good enough, but better serving them instructionally, better serving the community and district. And that was a benefit of the wind farms. And then since that time, being able to add back instructional staff and support staff, adding resources and curriculum, it's opened doors that weren't open 10 years ago for us.
Mm-hmm. No question. So when it comes to those revenues, what is a typical year for wind farm money that comes into Mount Pulaski schools?
Well, it varies a little bit. I can tell you this, that from the time I've been here, the assessed evaluation of our property in the Mount Pulaski School District has gone up about $50 million. And I would anticipate that these two new projects coming in make it go up about another 20 to 25 million. And I guess a good way of looking at it, I would say it's bringing in about another $1.5 million a year to our school district.
Wow.
And that's before the new wind farms kick in.
Wow.
And that's been good, because now instead of living year by year trying to remain in the black, that we are now able to have stable financial funds, that we have good reserves in case we need them, but also we're doing improvements that Mount Pulaski hasn't been able to do for decades because the money just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So the new high school project is really just coming to complete next week as we finish up the parking lot. We got some renovations we want to do in the future, but it's in really, really nice shape. And we're starting to look at what we can do in our grade school to start making renovations there, and even considering some other projects down the road. So These are things that without the additional tax revenues that we just wouldn't be able to accomplish.
Now, do you designate those dollars, on a yearly basis? Do you make plans for those, in advance in terms of years out? How do you manage those dollars through the course of time?
Basically, it all comes in just like all of our normal tax revenues come in. So they're not a special earmark on wind farm dollars compared to home tax dollars, they're property tax dollars that are being paid. But what we do is that we develop plans for the future. We have a capital projects plan that we approve every year. And it's basically looking at the direct next year things that we want to get done. But also it's kind of lining up a projection of what else we want to do moving forward. At our November board meeting coming up here next week, we are going to be discussing that capital projects list and what things we're going to prioritize for the next 2, 3, 5, and even looking 10 years out about where we're going to go.
Yeah.
We do have a plan, and we do try and look forward. Now that plan, it can be very fluid. It can change as our needs change, but we still try and have a projection of where we want to be.
It's got to be nice that those, like I think about the 1 cent sales tax dollars, those have to be used on facilities or, abating taxes and those sorts of things. And we're a worthy cause, no question, but it's got to be nice that those dollars come in, they're substantial, and you don't necessarily have to dedicate them to one thing or another. You can really find an area of your budget that you need to address, and you're able to do that.
Yeah, the sales tax is a little bit different than the property taxes because it has specific things that you can spend it on. It basically has to go towards the infrastructure of the school district. So we're talking about the buildings, the grounds, things of that nature. We passed a referendum about a year ago to where you can also use that money to hire SRO officers in school districts, or you can hire more social workers to support students. But as far as like a teacher's salary, buying instructional resources, things of that nature, sales tax money cannot go to that. But again, we've been very fortunate to bring that money in and pump it back into our schools. And that also helps us in our construction. And it's also going to be a service to us as we go forward doing renovations at the grade school.
Mr. Lamkey, when it comes to, you mentioned property values continue to go up in Mount Pulaski. I know within the last month or two since we've talked that it's been levy time. So how about the levy in Mount Pulaski? Let's dive into that real fast.
Yeah, the tentative levy is going to be passed the tentative levy be passed in November, and then we're going to pass the levy in December. And yeah, those tax dollars have helped us greatly. They've allowed us to reduce some taxes. When our first year at Mount Pulaski, our tax rate was $5.30, and in that time we've dropped that tax rate 33 cents. So we're now sitting right around the $4.97 range, and it is the increased value of our property that's allowing us to get more money out of the property, but yet have lower taxes. So that's a real benefit to the district and the taxpayers.
Sure. Well, when it comes to the levy, how does it compare to other areas, particularly Logan County, but just Central Illinois in general? How does Mount Pulaski's levy compare?
Our tax, the majority of Logan County, McLean County, and heading up to the north, they are all in the range of somewhere between like 5.3 all the way up to 6. So the tax rates are a little bit higher there. I know because of the power plant in Clinton has one of the lowest tax rates in Central Illinois. And so that's a real benefit to them. In Logan County, we are one of the lowest 2 districts as far as tax rates go. And it's a little deceiving because you have the elementary districts in Lincoln, and their tax rates are very low, but that's only because they're serving just K-8 districts. But when you look at the whole picture and you combine a Chester East Lincoln tax rate, you have to combine it with the Lincoln Community High School tax rate, and that gives you what the taxpayers are paying for a child to go to school from K to 12. And in that, we are in the bottom 2 schools. I think Hartsburg's lower than us, and then there's us.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, again, our guest on the phone today, Mr. Fred Lamkey, is the superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools. Mr. Lamkey, anything else on the wind farm dollars, levy dollars, anything we didn't touch on there you want us to know about?
Yeah, I just say the school district took a real neutral stand on the wind farm. We definitely recognize the benefits it brings the district and the things it's allowing us to do, but there's more things to consider beyond that. So while we weren't against the wind farms and we didn't overly support the wind farms, because we recognize there's a lot of people who are living in the shadows of the wind turbines. There's environmental questions that come up about the wind turbines. And so we recognize that our district and our community is a little bit torn in what's the best for our community. I guess all we can hope for that when we look back 15 years from now, that we can look back and say, hey, the board made a good decision. These wind farms were a positive thing for us, and we're in a good place. But it's been a tough decision for our community.
Sure. Well, for the school district, I mean, it certainly is a good thing. So, Mr. Lamkey, as we talk here this morning, what else is going on? Maybe from a board level or anything like that? What's been happening in Mount Pulaski schools lately?
Actually, it's been really nice to be a normal year. We're continuing on with our school improvement planning. We're building off that. We're preparing for a data retreat that's going to come up this spring to kind of evaluate where we are as a district and are we accomplishing the goals that we're setting forth. So those are all very positive things. I'm working with my administration right now to come up with staffing recommendations for the following year. We're going to present that to our Board of Education in December. And it's kind of strange, you're talking about hiring people more than 6 months out, but with the teacher market being the way it is, that you have to be doing that. We need to have our boots on the ground in January, looking for the teachers we're going to need in August.
Sure. Now, how has the teacher shortage and substitute challenges, how has that impacted this school year?
Well, we've been very fortunate. Now, we had 2 positions we didn't get filled. And if we were given enough time, I really feel confident we would have filled them. But we discovered in the middle of summer that we needed an additional math teacher at our junior high. And then we also discovered, because we had an influx of special ed population, we needed an additional special education teacher. So we advertised, did not get one applicant in the summer. But knowing that we're going to need these positions going into next school year, we're real confident that if we start in January that we're going to be able to get those positions filled. So with that being said, yes, it is affecting us, but given enough time and enough foresight on what our needs are going to be, we've been very fortunate to find very good teachers in our district.
It's good to hear.
As far as
go ahead. I'm sorry.
We just have this great core of local people who substitute teach in our buildings. And we're very fortunate on that. I know not every district has that. And we have some go-to subs that we just appreciate. And matter of fact, if you know a substitute teacher today, today's National Substitute Teacher Day. So pat them on the back, congratulate them. And we always need more. If you want a part-time job, we pay $125 a day. Mm-hmm. Come on in and we'll take care of you substitute teaching.
Now, how have you had to adjust those daily rates for those substitutes, not only to attract them, but, to be competitive with districts in your area? How about that?
We've raised our sub rates each of the last 3 years. And it's a little bit of a bidding war, because we are all competing for the same group of people in Logan County. And it's been very competitive amongst the school districts moving forward. And our rate where it stands right now is, I think it's $5 off from what Lincoln schools are paying. But then again, we like to think that we offer a pretty good product to student in Mount Pulaski that's worth coming out to see as well.
And I'm sure the class sizes are probably competitive as well, right?
Yeah, our class sizes. I mean, Hartsburg's obviously small class sizes too, but our class sizes, elementary school, we're almost every class is below 25, and usually in that 15 to 20 range. And our high school classes range anywhere from 10 to 15. So yeah, you're not dealing with big groups of kids when you come out to Mount Pulaski. You got nice small classes that are very manageable. Mr.
Lamkey, let's take a time out here, sir. By the way, how do folks learn more about becoming a substitute at Mount Pulaski schools?
Well, give us a call at the district office. You can reach us at 217-792-7222, or jump on our website and just make contact with us, and we will work with you in the ROE to get you guys the licensure and get you in our building.
That is Mr. Fred Lamkey, superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, my guest on the phone. More to come with him on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW. Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. It's been a lower day for grain and soybean futures. There have been some reports. Reuters indicated the potential of a 120-day extension to the grain corridor in the Black Sea. December corn down 5 1/4, 660. March down 5 1/4, 662 1/4. July down 5 1/4, 655 1/2. January soybeans down 9 3/4, 1419 1/2. March down 10 1/2, 1424 1/4. July down 10 1/2, 1432 1/4. December wheat down 18 3/4, 798 3/4. Kansas City down 17 1/2, 938. Livestock contracts. December lean hogs down 47 at 85.10. December live cattle up 20, $152 a hundredweight. This is the RFD Radio Network.
Are you a friend of agriculture? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. We're giving a $500 Friends of Ag discount to anyone that orders a new Chevrolet or Buick to be built just for you this month. Are you a friend of ag? You are if you're a member of any ag organization, employed by any ag-related business, including research, inputs, manufacturing, sales, and marketing, and of course, ag education. Come in, order yours today. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
Your own home without the maintenance. If you're 55 or better, a beautiful Liberty Village villa could be yours. This is Erin, and I invite you to come take a tour of our move-in ready villa. Click the Liberty Village icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Simply the finest.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mr. Fred Lamkey, Superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools, my guest on the phone. Mr. Lamkey, school report card time. How did Mount Pulaski Schools fare?
We fared like we always do, Seth. We came in, we're commendable. When you're commendable, that means you're doing a good job and you're serving your students the way you should. But we don't want to just be commendable, Mount Pulaski. So we're school improvement planning. We're striving to get to be excellent.
What stood out to you about what the data in the school report card had to tell you?
I guess I was surprised there wasn't a greater drop in our and again, there was a dip in our ELA and our math scores after the pandemic, but the drop wasn't as significant as one might think. And I think it's a real manageable area for us to be able to get our kids back on track and keep improving. Some things that strike me, like there's some things that you work on, but they're a little bit out of your control. Like one of the main factors for high school school report cards is your graduation rate. And we graduate. The kids that go through our system 4 years, we get them graduated and we get them out. But we're still held accountable for some students who come in as a freshman. They leave, we don't see them again. And if they haven't been reported graduated somewhere, they count against our graduation rate because they were here at one point in time. That's a tough thing to work with. Also, special needs students who choose to remain in the school system through their age 22nd birthday, which is something that I'm very supportive of, because they pass their graduation and remain in school. They're considered to be not graduates as well.
Oh.
So those things end up dinging you on your report card that you really have very little control over. So what we're trying to do is work with ISB to find the things that we can control and how we can work with our students to make sure that we're focusing on the right thing that's going to help them improve. So there's a little bit of a game.
There's been a lot of conversation, particularly larger school districts, like Chicago Public Schools, Decatur Public Schools, those types of places. The disconnect between kids and their ability to comprehend reading for appropriate for their age, math skills, all those things, but then having a high graduation rate. Correlate those two things in Mount Pulaski schools. How are those two things connected?
Well, honestly, Seth, I don't know that they're connected at all, because every school district gets to set their standards and set the criteria for what it means to be a graduate. In Mount Pulaski, we have high criteria, like many of the schools in our area, from Clinton to Warrensburg to the Lincoln schools. But when you get to some of the larger districts, their criteria for graduation is lower. So you could be a student that coming through Mount Pulaski schools and graduate compared to a student in another district, but your reading comprehension and your math abilities may be much better because the expectations were higher. I've had conversations with people about those types of things, that when you go to larger schools, you get more opportunity to take higher level classes. There's more students they're considered extraordinary and can do these things. But there's also another level to that of students who are not getting the same type of instruction that you get in a smaller district like what we have in Central Illinois. So I would put our students and our graduates and their cognitive abilities and their reading and math skills up against anybody in the state.
Gotcha. And I worded that very, very poorly, so forgive me for that. I guess I meant, are you finding there's, appropriate reading, like kids reading at the level appropriate for their age, and then they're, moving through the system and they're, you're not graduating kids that really shouldn't be, I guess, is kind of the question.
I got you. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I believe that's the case. I think we're getting our kids right where they need to be. And they're showing that when they go to college and they go on to do great things. So yeah, I absolutely do think that the students that we're graduating are ready for the world. They're ready, whether it's the workforce or going to college. we're putting out quality products.
Mr. Lamkey, talk to me a little bit. I've heard it from a couple of your peers about, the school report card wasn't really put out the last couple of years because of COVID. So there was a little bit of anxiety there about, how will the test scores look? How will our, what will things look like on this? How will we come out in terms of our designations? Was there any anxiety on your part in just not having seen this data for a while?
Well, I wouldn't lie to you, Seth. I was out there trying to find those scores as soon as I could, because it's one of those things that if for some reason you fell and you weren't commendable at least, you have to get out in front of that with your community and the media and everybody else. But at the same time, I was really confident that we would fall within that range, because I felt like during the pandemic we did an excellent job of keeping our kids at pace. But overall, because of the changes that have happened in testing just in the last 10 years, and they haven't perfected the state testing to the point to where we put a lot of merit into what it does. We focus a lot more on our achievement testing we do through NWEA in our buildings to find out where our students are and how we work our instruction and what we provide for them. So while I know we have to be accountable with our school report card, we're much more focused on the testing that we're doing inside our buildings to guide our instruction and help our students.
Very good. Well, Mr. Lamkey, as we wrap up here for this morning, about 20 seconds, anything else on school report card I didn't touch on you want to put out there today?
No, I think we did a good job covering everything on that. I'm proud of where our school district is, but we're not satisfied. Commendable is not good enough for Mount Pulaski. We want to make sure that we can be all we can be.
Mr. Lamkey, it's always good to talk to you, sir. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and we'll catch up after the holiday break.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Seth.
That is Mr. Fred Lamkey. Yeah, absolutely. That is Mr. Fred Lamkey, Superintendent of Mount Pulaski Schools. My guest on the phone. We stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton 92.3 FM.